Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Castpotro, your go-to podcast for insightful discussions on a wide range of fascinating topics. As we dive into our second season focused on career development, we are excited to introduce our today's topic, and it is conflict management. In our previous episode, we talked about professional networking, how we can use our communication skills in the best way to meet with people in different fields, how to use different strategies, and get contact with professionals. Also, the importance of positivity in every environment, because we never know which door leads to which path in our lives. Every day, we are continuing our journey to be our best version, better than our past, and developing for our future. I'm your host, Zeynep Karakaşlı, and next to me, I'm joined with my co-host, Ashrafi. It has been some time since we are together, and I'm really excited to have this episode with you once more. I want to know if you share the same feelings as me, Ashrafi.
Hello, Zeynep. It is wonderful to be back again. And welcome, dear listeners, to another engaging episode. I am Ashrafi, your co host for today, as we go into detail about solving conflicts.
Before we will delve into the topic of conflict management, I also want to know your opinion about our topic because we will be invite our guests here to join us. Conflict management is a subject we see in our daily lives and professional fields most of the time, since we are beings who naturally have conflicted emotions and a way of thinking. It is like the human nature itself. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I do agree with you, Zeynep, that you said it's a part of human nature. Definitely, diversity of opinions is the core of human nature, I think. And we are all bound to think differently. However, in the practical world, instead of mustering that as a strength for progress, humankind has, well, disappointingly delved into conflict very often. But now that we have evolved into a more mature civilization, we're more technologically advanced, we're stepping into the fourth industrial revolution. I think it's high time we learn conflict management to be more productive, more empathetic, because differences means more options, not more fights.
I totally agree with your points. And meaning by differences and the mature civilization, that means when there is a conflict management and conflicts, there should be some resolutions itself. And we are here to learn more about it. Let's welcome our guests for today. We have Sid and Saba with us. Can you introduce yourselves for our listeners, please?
My name is Siddharth Kumar. I'm an engineering student and I am fortunate to be invited in this podcast.
What about you,
Hello
Saba?
everyone. Hello everyone. I'm Sabah Bashir from Kashmir and I'm very happy to be a part of this informative podcast.
And welcome to Castpotro, Sid and Saba. Let's make this podcast incredible together with the best content possible.
All right, let's get into it then. So, Saba, I want to ask the first question to you. Can you share a bit about your background in conflict management, some of your experiences? Can you share that with us, with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. I would be happy to share a bit about my background in conflict management. So, during my bachelor's degree, I did a lot of internships and fellowship programs. One of the fellowship was ML Academy, which was sponsored by Stanford University, and this was an incredible, extensive fellowship program, and they're dedicated to developing various kind of professional and interpersonal skills. One of the key area I can recall we focused on was conflict management. Through this training, I learned how to navigate and resolve conflicts effectively, which has been incredibly valuable in both my personal and also for my professional life. Along with that, in my academic journey, I led a team project on religious influence in Pakistan's politics, and I managed a team of 9 members. And these opportunities have really shaped my ability to handle conflicts constructively, whether it's in a classroom or a professional setting or a collaborative project. Um, so I have learned the importance of clear communication and other things which help me in turning my potential conflict into opportunities for growth and better understanding. Thank you.
Wow. So it seems to me that you have had a lot of opportunities to explore managing conflicts or delve into how to resolve various problems. So we will know more about those in detail in the next parts, listeners. So stay tuned. And now I want to shift to Sid. What about you, Sid? Can you also share a bit about yourself in this field?
I will try to add value to this podcast with my experience as a class representative of my batch, where I work with HOD for the interest of our department. Been there as a class representative, sports representative, and also have coordinated in different events and been a part of different societies. So these things have helped me in understanding the conflicts to with a closer approach. Along with engineering and technology, I am passionate about different subjects which essentially come under the umbrella of social sciences such as anthropology, geopolitics, history, philosophy, and essentially psychology, which I will try to use in this podcast for explaining this whole thing, conflict management.
And yeah, I can see that, Sid, you have many experiences in different fields, which it goes between like tech skill and soft skills itself. And it leads to my another question for you. After your experiences that we heard from you, how would you define conflict management, and why do you think it is so important in today's world, in your opinion?
So let's head to the keywords, the two keywords of this whole term. We got conflict management. So the word is conflict. So which basically means when multiple strong desires which can't be solved at once. While management, as we all know, it's more of like coordinating and overseeing the activities and resources within an organization or between different individuals. Combining this whole term, we got like conflict management, which refers to handling conflicts in a constructive manner to minimize negative impacts and promote the positive outputs. Conflict management, regarding its importance, conflict management is not something which is like exclusive like interview preparation and networking skills. It's like something we see in our daily lives, and it got a like very broad spectrum of like it ranges from like medium level conflicts like in office, in colleague level, between managers of between different departments, be it R&D and marketing, and it leads to, and it also ranges to the country level conflicts. So it's these are enough to tell its importance, but I would like to give one example to explain it further. So there are many examples regarding it, but one of my favorite one is like the Lamborghini and Ferrari one, and other one is there is one more example about Tesla and Edison. Let me explain first the Ferrari and Lamborghini story. So this one is very popular one. Lamborghini was essentially a tractor company, and its owner was a car enthusiast. So he had a new model of Ferrari, and he found some problems in the clutch of that car. So he went to the owner of Ferrari and told him about this problem. So here we see a like ego clash between them, and instead of focusing on the problem and resolving the conflict, it went out like you should focus on the tractors rather than coming in my domain or working with me. So then we see a whole different change in scenario. Lamborghini deciding like it will enter in the car domain by itself, and now we all know how big of a company Lamborghini as a motor car manufacturer is. And the other example is about like Tesla and Edison. So it's about the war of currents. There was one time when Edison was ideal of Tesla, and he was working under Edison only, where he proposed a model about AC currents to Edison. It was like changing the scenario by introducing the AC generators instead of DC generators, because DC generators needs can't work in like cover a whole area. They are need to be like established in small chunks in the whole area. And if you like have a big DC generator and you try to like transcend the electricity, it will go through some losses. So instead of like discussing on the this whole AC generator thing, Edison rejected his idea, and and we see like Tesla with some other industrialist making his own company, and like making AC electricity and AC generators to a better scale and bigger scale, and it eventually created problem for Edison in its DC model. So here I would end. Like I guess these two examples are enough for telling the importance of it, how conflicts can be construct in a positive way and a negative way.
I definitely agree with you, Sid, and I love the stories that you use with Lamborghini or with Tesla, and it all goes back to that point that conflict can lead to innovation, it can lead to revolutions, and much more, rather than just quarrels or wars or like whatever it is, something negative. And these are prime examples why we need conflict management. So thank you for sharing that. Now I want to move to Saba for a bit. So Siddharth talked about, he defined conflict management, but can you tell me the difference between conflict resolution and conflict management? What do you think are some key things that sets them apart?
Yeah, most oftenly conflict resolution and conflict management seems similar, as people think that they are same, because conflict solution, conflict management are similar, almost similar terms, but they are a bit different. There is a bit difference between conflict resolution and conflict management. For example, conflict resolution is about finding a definite solution to a conflict, and it involves identifying the underlying causes of the conflict and addressing them in a way that satisfies all the parties that are involved in the conflict. The goal of conflict resolution is to reach such an agreement that resolve the conflict permanently. That conflict resolution is about the permanent solution of the problem, and conflict resolution often requires things like negotiation, mediation, and other forms of intervention to help the parties involved in the conflict, and so that they come to a mutually acceptable solution. Uh, on the other hand, when we come towards the conflict management, it's not about the permanent solution. It's about handling conflict in such a way that can minimize their negative impacts. It does not always aim to resolve the conflict completely or permanently, but it focuses on managing it so that it does not escalate or cause significant disruption. Conflict management strategies are a little bit different from conflict resolution. Like conflict management strategies include improving communication and setting clear boundaries and developing coping mechanism for dealing with ongoing disagreements. The aim of conflict management is to keep the conflict under control so that we can maintain a functional relationship or environment that, despite the presence of disagreement or conflict, the conflicting parties behave peacefully, so that we can reduce the impacts of the conflict. And so yes, conflict resolution is different from conflict management, as conflict resolution seeks to end the conflict completely, and conflict management aims to control and mitigate its effects. Yes, both approaches are important in different contexts, and they can be used together to handle conflicts effectively. and to resolve the conflict effectively.
It is really great that they may seem similar at first, like conflict resolution and conflict management, but they are in different contexts. And like you said, when both using, when they are both used in efficient way, it helps us to manage the conflicts in the best way possible. So it leads to my second other question for you, Saba. Can you describe a time when you successfully managed a conflict, and what strategies did you use in that? Like, can you describe that moment to us?
Yeah, I will share with you my time when I was in bachelor, almost 1.5 year ago. I was in a team project focused on religious influence on Pakistan's politics. As you can see that politics and religion are two sensitive topics, and it's the perspective of different people, because different people have different perspective relevant to politics and religion. So I was working on that project. I encountered a significant conflict regarding the interpretation of crucial data, and thankfully I successfully managed it, and I managed it through active listening. I ensured that each person could express their viewpoints without any interruption, so that as a team leader, I can facilitate a discussion where everyone clarified their positions and focus. Also, we can focus much more on factual evidence rather than personal opinion of the members involved in the project. And moreover, I reminded my team that it's our shared objective to produce a comprehensive study which helped us to redirect our focus from individual disagreement to achieving our project goals. So let's end this conflict and this disagreement, and let's focus on the target and the goal, so that we can work in a positive way, and we and achieve our project goal. So we explored multiple perspectives and agreed to present a balanced analysis in our final report, incorporating diverse viewpoints, but they were not based on personal opinions. They were supported by data and facts and figures. So yes, these strategies helped me to resolve the conflict constructively and ensured our project was completed successfully, while maintaining team together and while maintaining the morale of the team.
It is really a it is really an important project indeed, because it is both focusing on religious elements and politics elements in both together. And I really want to congratulate you about managing it both successfully with your team and making it possible after some challenges that you occurred. But it's still a success at the end. And I want to ask you, Sid, right now, like, can you also describe an experience?
So here I would like to consider the conflict I faced as working a sports representative. So there was this case is a bit messed up because there are like multiple parties involved in all of this whole conflict. So I will name some of them. Like one is myself and my batch as a sports representative. One is senior sports representative of the same department but senior year. Uh, the HOD of our department, the sports head, which was a professor and who was managing the whole event, the sports event, which was like 1 to 2 month long, and the student head of all this event. So, for the sake of simplicity, for the listeners, let's divide all of these parties into two sets. One would be the senior CSR and HOD, who was on the side of merging the teams, and one would be the junior and senior head. Junior head is that student head who is the of the same year from which my senior CSR was there, and the senior head is I am referring to that ultimate head of that whole event, a professor. So the main issue is regarding merging the teams. One set wants different year teams of department A of my department to merge because of low strength of students in this overall department. Uh, but both the heads are opposing it. So here, if we see the positions, position is basically the thing which is being asked by the party which is under conflict. So the position of both the heads is like, no, we can't merge the teams. But if we see by this lens, a different lens, and then this case is not like that simple. We can look at from a different lens by focusing on the underlying interest of both of them, because the reason why senior head is not agreeing to this merging of teams is because his underlying interest is getting as many registrations as possible. Merging the teams would be like reducing the overall strength of students participating in the event. So he wants a number to show to the administration, college administration, uh, for portraying it like it a grand success. So, and but the underlying interest of that junior head was the competition. If we would have merged the teams, then it would have got like a better winning percentage, and then he would be responsible for the uh, the whole process. So this thing which I told is about this position and underlying interest. It it is one of the points of Harvard negotiation model, and it got four main points. So one I have told by this, which is like separating the position and underlying interest and focusing on the interest. Now the other point is about separating the people and from the problem. So by the help of example of my senior, I would like to explain this whole process. My senior was a bit over assertive and aggressive with his whole approach, because he too knew the whole underlying interest why the junior head is not agreeing to this whole point. So he was all aggressive in this approach. This made like in a conflict, if you are like being over aggressive, and assertiveness is required, but like it's not like in the aggressive sense, it should be positive, it should be positive sense. So this way you are going to make the things more worse, because now the other party won't be getting ready to show empathy towards you, which is one of the key strategies in this whole conflict management point, one of the important points. My approach was a bit slow and soft, so I tried, somehow I was able to make them understand our problem, and they then they were able to empathize with us with this low strength problem, and then we were able to discuss this whole thing on a better level. So 2 points got clear. The third point is about finding the common ground for both the parties, both the conflicting parties. So the common ground, if we would have, the problem is we can't merge the teams because, as I said, the reasons. But then here one approach comes is, maybe we can the solution came out was, we can make make a rule, where rule for the department, where if a particular year got students in surplus, then these students can play in the same department of different year who have got a lack of students. So the objection raised from the other party was, we can't do this because I would raise the objection, I don't need it. So then we got like, here now we come to the fourth point, which is like focusing on the objective criteria. If you look at the subjective criteria, only the department A, which is my department, was needing it, but others were not, because they already had the optimum amount of strength. So now we focus on the fourth strategy, which is like focusing on objective criteria. And here it was the fact that really our strength of the department was really low. So with this point, we made a rule, and it was like not just for our department, it was for all the departments participating in the whole event. whoever got a lack of students in a particular year, they can get the more students from the other year of that same department. So this is how where I see the whole conflict getting better. And there are many blunders in this whole process which I would explain in next questions, if you mention the mistake part. And here I guess I covered the Harvard negotiation model with an example, so hope it helped you.
Thank you, Sid. And I think your approach was really good, considering everyone. It's a very normal thing that we face in workplaces or in educational institutions, that some people with higher positions, they may get into conflict, and we might have to step in. But you did it with like kindness and empathy, and that's why they listen to you. And you also explained the strategies in the Harvard model. So I think different people has different approach and whatever works for them, but the main denominator is empathy and listening to each other, which sets us apart. So thank you for that. And since you explained in details about this, like 4 strategies, can you also tell us some common mistakes people make when trying to resolve conflict?
So the very first mistake would be like ignoring the conflict. So not to confuse this point of ignoring the conflict term with the avoiding the conflict. Uh, so I would explain this later on. First of all, it's better to get in the conflict if the interest of yours and the interest of other party both are high. It's always better because it's a win-win situation. And if you're gonna ignore this, and it always be a lose situation. But for now, assuming you are in a conflict, then definitely not following 4 essential strategies, which forms the like foundation of this whole management thing of conflict. These are active listening, empathy, assertiveness, and problem solving. So if you lack in any of one points, then you are gonna face some problem in this whole management thing. But it is obvious definitely if you don't follow the foundation thing. But I would like to add different point, which in my opinion should be highlighted. And one of it is involving too many parties into the conflict, because it all just mess up the whole process. Like the example I gave in the case of sports management, we were like more than 5 to 6 parties, and it all just messed up the whole process. And it actually went like a pretty long. This conflict went pretty long. It was not like 1 or 2 meeting thing. We had multiple discussions on online forums, on phone calls, and then at last stages we went to principal and like physical meetings. So one of the major problem is involving too many parties. The the other problem, as I said, like we went in starting, we were trying to handle this with the help of technology, with the phone calls, with the meeting, with the chatting sessions. But getting rely on technology o- too much is like also create some mess, because the words you are using in it, you are thinking that I am for you, their interpretation may be different, but the words which you are the going to be reached to other member, they might interpret it in a whole different scenario, and it will all messed up the whole thing. So it's always better to like have a private meeting or physical meeting whenever possible. So because the communication is not just like through chatting and voice, it's also about the body language, so and the facial expressions. You can interpret the same word with different meanings with all different expressions. So along with it, I would say lack of stable mind and not having a long term vision, because you need to be like slow in the process and like give it time. You can't rush into the whole thing, because definitely in a conflict both the parties want the best out of them. And if you're gonna approach this problem with the case, like I mentioned, my senior was aggressive, so the result was actually he was not able to participate in many sports. And because he the another problem is not getting ready to negotiate on the thing. So getting having a stable mind and slow in the process will help the other party to empathize with you, and active listening part, which is essential. So these are the the essential things which are common mistakes which parties uh, had come in this whole conflict management thing.
Thank you for your points that you shared with us, Sid, including 4 essential strategies and not relying too much over the technology and having a stable mind. Thank you for every point that you shared with our listeners. And now let's continue with Saba once more. That's a question for you, Saba. How can leaders foster a culture of effective conflict management with their teams? Can you share it a bit with us?
Yeah, I think leaders can foster a culture of effective conflict management within their teams by promoting open communication. They can encourage their team members. Um they can encourage their team members to express their opinions and concerns openly, so that nothing remains unhid and secret, which can escalate further later on. And they can demonstrate active listening, and they can apply the skills like empathy and constructive feedback. They can encourage their teams that we are a team and we can work together, and they can do it by active listening, because when we listen someone carefully with empathy and properly, we can give them constructive feedback. And when they will find that uh, we are being listened by our team leader, they can work in much more friendly environment. And I think leaders can provide training programs as well for this reason. They can offer conflict resolution workshops and resources, and so that their team members can enhance the skills relevant to the conflict management, and they get some skills relevant to conflict management and conflict resolution, and they learn how to work together in a team, and how to collaborate and forgive the mistakes of others in a team. And leaders can also set clear guidelines relevant to establishing their procedures for addressing conflicts and promoting respectful dialogue, so that the team members um, can sit together and they can express their concerns, and they can dialogue with one another. And I think leaders can encourage the teamwork and collective problem solving skills, and they can emphasize that as a team we should enhance the skills like problem solving skills to resolve conflicts. And the leaders should must recognize and address the issues timely for this purpose. And I think proactively addressing conflicts as they arise to prevent escalation, because it is easier to handle the conflict at the initial and beginning stage, as compared to uh, the last or ending stage, when the conflict has arose too much. And I think by implementing these strategies, leaders can create an environment where conflicts are managed in a constructive way, and they can foster stronger team dynamics, and they can enhance the productivity of their team, and they can work in an efficient environment.
So let's continue over leadership once more. And I want to ask another question to you, which will be like a following question. So, over topic of leadership, like you also took some leadership classes, and we know like what leaders should do in the conflict management. And what are some effective techniques for like de-escalating and heated conflict? What should we do in that situation?
Well, I think during the escalation of heated conflict, we can practice the things like we can stay calm during the conflict and maintain a composed personality to prevent the situation from escalating further. Um, and we can reduce it by give full attention to the other person's perspective without interrupting him or her. and show some understanding of their emotions and viewpoints, that yeah, we can understand what you are saying, this is your perspective, yes, we can handle it in this way, we can add in this way. So by understanding their emotions and viewpoints, and by avoiding aggressive or abusive language, instead we should remain calm and use calm and respectful words, so that they feel much more respect, and they will break their perspectives in a way which is much more peaceful. And if emotions are high, suggest taking a break to cool down before continuing the discussion, because when the conflict is at peak level, so you are seeing that we cannot control it and we cannot stay calm. So just take a break, and when the emotions are high, just suggest to take a break and cool down before continuing this discussion would be the best practice. And seek the common ground, look at the areas of agreement or shared interest to build a common ground for everyone, and focus on the issue. Just keep the discussion centered on the specific problems rather than personal attacks on one another, that you did this and your perspective is wrong, don't do this. Just keep the discussion centered on the specific problem rather than personal attacks and past grievances and something like this. And offer a solution and propose constructive solution, and to be open to compromise to find a resolution, because in such a situation it cannot be sorted out without compromise. Both parties will compromise on something, then we can find a common ground. And I think these techniques can help manage emotions and promote understanding, and facilitate constructive dialogue in resolving the conflicts in such a heated environment.
I noticed that you have talked about acknowledging emotions, Saba, in your answers, and not, using harsh language. And Sid also talked about being empathetic. So obviously, emotions and feelings, they play a big part in conflict management. So based on that, I want to ask Sid that what do you think emotional intelligence, what role does it play in managing conflicts?
So this emotional intelligence term was developed and popularized by the psychologist like Daniel Goleman. So this whole the emotional intelligence is refers to the ability of a person to understand the emotions, manage them, and like present them in on a proper level. And it's not just the emotions of your, it's also about the emotions of the other party which is being involved in all this. So now now why is it important is because in a one line case I would say it's directly proportional to the whole conflict management thing. And why am I saying this? Because if you look the four strategies which form the foundation of this conflict management, which are active listening, empathy, assertiveness, and problem solving, then I would explain them how this emotional intelligence is impacting all of these in one by one. So active listening, definitely if you have better emotional intelligence, then you would be able to like complete let the other person complete the whole thing. And about active listening, Saba already have explained much about like its importance. So let's get to the empathy thing. So one of the major strategies conflict management is directly in sync with the emotional intelligence, because uh, empathy is uh, empathy is about putting yourself on the ability of a person to put yourself on the shoes of others. So having a better emotional intelligence would be able would let you able to show a better empathy. And now talking about assertiveness, so emotional intelligence got two genres. One focuses on the self, and one focuses on the other person. uh, so obviously so the self part, there are like three different parts. One is self awareness, one is self confidence, and one is self regulation. So definitely all of these three are needed, but if you talk about the self confidence part, then then you can get the idea how important it is for you to be self confident, uh, to be assertive as well, which is like the ability of a person to put their concerns and their interest in a positive manner without showing aggression. uh, and now talking about uh, uh, problem solving thing. So first step to solve any problem is getting to know the problem in a better way. So if you go by Harvard negotiation model, one of the major highlights is focusing on the underlying interest, which I already talked in the example I gave about sports. So if you have a better emotional intelligence, then I have cleared the 3 points: active listening, empathy, and assertiveness. So you would be able to get the problem of other person in a better way by focusing on the underlying interest of that person. And I gave you the example where although the both the parties, the senior and junior head, were having the same position, their interests were different, and with that point we were able to came out with a solution. So I guess this much is enough to tell the importance of emotional intelligence in the context of conflict management, because it's directly proportional to the whole conflict management strategies.
Thank you, Sid. You summed it up greatly, I think, and I love the point that you said one has to be self-confident to be good at conflict management and not like arrogant. There's a difference between that. And when you're confident in yourself, only then can you present your problems, have an optimistic view about problems, and also present it in a good way. So I definitely agree with you. So we have heard listeners till now about how to solve problems, what to do, the various effective techniques. Now I want some real life examples. So I'll head over to Saba. Um, can you share with us some real life examples of poor conflict management and what lessons can be learned from them?
Um, yeah, there are so many real life example of poor conflict management, and the most worst part is that these poor conflict management caused a lot of harm and casualties. For example, during Syrian civil war, the Syrian government responded to the peaceful protesters with a violent crackdown, and this thing escalated into a prolonged and devastating civil war. Actually, they were just the protesters were demanding their basic rights and the end of monarchy and kingship, and they were demanding actually for their democracy and their basic human rights to be secured, and they were protesting for these things. But the government responded through a violent crackdown, and it escalated and devastated the civil war, and many groups joined it, and it caused a lot of harm. And I think the best lesson we can get from that is if the government initiate an early dialogue and address the grievances, then it can be sorted down. And it was crucial for government that it must started early dialogue and address the issues. If the government had engaged in meaningful dialogues with protesters and addressed their grievances, it could have potentially preventing the escalation into a full-scale conflict. I think ignoring or suppressing dissent can lead to severe and prolonged conflicts, and we can see that during Syrian civil war, large number of people died, and there were a lot of human rights violations here, and many countries were playing their proxies there. Many interest groups arose, and along with that we can see the emergence of ISIS, which is the worst terrorist organization we can ever imagine. and it was the time period when the Arab Spring was on peak, and because of government poor conflict management, the Syrian civil war started, and it led to a lot of casualties. And along with that, we can see the Rwanda genocide, where the ethnic tensions between the Hutu and Tutsi population uh, um, arose in 1994, and it resulted in mass killings, atrocities, and we can learn from them that if timely international intervention will happen at that time, timely international intervention is necessary, I think, to prevent escalation. Because if at that time i- international community intervene, they can stop the genocide, and they can prevent the conflict from further escalation. And the lack of effective international intervention allowed the ethnic tension to escalate into genocide. With the international community had intervened earlier and taken decisive actions to address the underlying tensions, I think then they can protect civilians, and the scale of the tragedy could have been mitigated. But the intervention was never happened, and mm, this led to genocide and war crimes. And we can also see these type of examples, I think, during the Brexit negotiations. Brexit is actually when the United Kingdom decided that they will not be a part of European Union anymore. That was marked by because of poor communication and rigid stances and prolonged uncertainty. Actually, United Kingdom was thinking that they are paying too much to European Union, and European Union is intervening their independent foreign policy and these type of things, and they don't want the immigration policy which was implemented by the European Union. So these type of poor communication stances led towards the Brexit. And I think flexible negotiation, open communication are essential. And if they do that and in a peaceful environment, then Brexit would never happen, and EU and UK would be the part of would be together. The rigid position and the lack of effective communication prolonged the uncertainty and made reaching a mutually acceptable agreement challenging. Flexible negotiation strategies that accommodate differing viewpoints and open and transparent communication between the parties are crucial in resolving complex international negotiation. So, from the examples like Brexit and in the contemporary world, we can see during the Ukraine war and recently the Palestine-Israel conflict, we can see a lot of war crimes are happening. And I think it can be sorted out if the international community intervene and peacefully negotiate the issue and sort it out. Then they can stop the war crimes, genocide, and ethnic cleansing. And these are the best lessons I think we should learn from history, and we should not repeat the same mistakes again and again. These examples illustrate the critical importance of early intervention, open dialogue, and flexible negotiation in managing international conflicts effectively. I think by addressing grievances early and engaging in meaningful dialogue and maintaining flexibility in negotiation, stakeholders and the responsible people can work towards preventing conflict from escalating and achieving peaceful resolutions.
Thank you, Saba. Continue with our next question, because this is a long subject that we can talk like for whole day, but we need to continue to our next question at some part. And for Saba, I want to say that with these life examples you shared, like it is said that we can see not every conflict is solved in peaceful terms. Like sometimes lots of innocent people had to pay the price of it. When we come to these topics, there can be many opinions differing, but at the end, history should not repeat itself, and all of us needs to learn from our mistakes. even this is a small event between group or like war between countries. And I will go to my other question for you, Saba. You already mentioned them a few times in your experiences and stories, but I want to ask one more for clarifying and for our listeners to take some notes of it. Like, back to the conflict management. What skills are essential for someone looking to improve their conflict management abilities? What do you think of it?
I think the best skill would be, and the most important would be the communication. As communication is fundamental, it involves not only expressing the thoughts clearly, but also actively listening to understand others' perspective as well. This skills forms the basis of constructive dialogue and mutual understanding during conflicts, along with the communication, as Sid also mentioned. Empathy is another crucial skill. It enables you to comprehend and appreciate the emotions and viewpoints of others who are involved in the conflict. By demonstrating empathy, you can foster trust and build confidence, which are essential for resolving disputes effectively. And as we discussed above in the previous question about their real life example, if empathy and open communication were there, then these conflict could be resolved in a best way. But unfortunately, this did not happen. And along with empathy, I think problem solving skills are vital for identifying the root causes of conflict and developing a practical solution. This involves analyzing the solution objectively and brainstorming alternatives and making informed decisions that aim at achieving mutual benefits. And negotiation skills, sometimes we miss these interpersonal and effective skills. And I think negotiation skills come into play when parties have different interests or goals. Effective negotiation is about finding compromises, and agreements that satisfy both sides to some extent. And it requires flexibility, creativity, and the ability to communicate effectively, as it was missing during the Brexit. And as Sid explained in detail about emotional intelligence, I think it's critical for managing someone's emotion and understanding the emotional dynamics of others during conflict. It helps us in staying calm and staying calm under pressure or hard time, and empathizing with others' feeling and maintaining constructive communication. And along with that, I think conflict management is all about mediation and adaptability and decision making skills. If you are, even if you don't have these type of skills, like mediation skills are valuable for facilitating discussion between the conflicting parties. As a mediator, you help and guide the conversation towards mutually understanding and agreement. And if you don't have the mediation skills and adaptability, then you cannot sort out the issue. As adaptability is important because not all conflicts are the same. Being able to adjust your approach based on the specific context, personalities involved, and the nature of the conflict enhances your effectiveness in resolving these type of we can say disputes. And the most important along with them is along with the adaptability and mediation and emotional intelligence is the decision making skills. As we see that who pay the price of the conflict? Common people, civilians pay the price of the conflict mostly. So I think leaders must have the decision making skills, as they are crucial for making timely and well informed choices during conflicts. And this involves weighing different options, considering their potential outcomes, and selecting the most suitable course of action to achieve that resolution. And lastly, understanding various conflict resolution techniques, such as collaborative problem solving, consensus building, provides us with a uh, toolbox of methods to address conflicts effectively depending on the specific circumstances. And by continuously developing these type of skills, individuals, I think, can enhance their ability in managing conflict and constructively and achieve positive outcomes in personal, professional, and the social interaction as well.
Thank you, Saba. You mentioned some very essential skills that help us conflict management, and also provided very real life experiences that are going around us and how it affects. So yeah, the price of not managing or not resolving a conflict can get really heavy for the common people. So thank you so much for that. And now I want to ask Sid, how can individuals practice?
By messing with people. Uh, okay, just kidding. So the thing is, no relationship, be it at colleague level or family, is complete without conflict. So I would say just work on yourself first, because no matter what you try, no matter how good intentions you are having, you are eventually going to enter in some sort of conflict. And so working on yourself would be the first thing which I would say. So for you can read the personal development books, or access the different similar material, can access different podcasts like this one. And the other thing is, focusing on the emotions. Now this time I am not talking about the emotion of others or yourself. It is more like you should be able to control your emotions, not like emotions are controlling you. So it's about the stability part. So, and whenever possible, I would say try building fake scenarios about probable conflicts of high interest on both sides. Why I mentioned the high interest on both sides? Because there are different models in this conflict management thing as well. And one is, and it's best to, and always best to enter the conflict when it's having high interest on both sides. So properly having a communication with the people you interact, where you see a potential conflict in near future, is going to have, and focusing on the interest would be a good thing. Also, fake scenarios, by fake scenarios of conflicts, you will be able to have enough idea where you may possibly get into a conflict. So better to avoid it. Now remember, the thing is, I mentioned better to avoid it, and not, I didn't say to ignore it. So this point I also highlighted in one of my answers, where I said the one of the common mistake people do is ignoring the conflict. So avoiding the conflict here means like conflict is not generated yet, but it's having a very high probability. So better to work on the present part, so in future it does not get messed up. So I hope this line cleared the difference between the two. But here I would like to give one example, so it would able to clear the whole point in a better way. So for example, assuming you are in some administrative position, and it may be like you are in a civil engineering company, or maybe in a finance company, or any other company, but where you are going to have like some options or some offers for the company by different other tenders, or different other by different other companies. So for some infrastructure, assuming for some infrastructure construction, you are getting tenders from different parties, and you found one of the companies is from your relative. So you are in an administrative position as a company official, and you found the one of the offers is from your relative. Then the thing is, uh, here, even if you try your best to be unbiased in this whole selection of the best offer, and anyhow you find the relative offer, so you can't be like just in that way, because even if you try to be unbiased, and you see that like your relative is having the relatively best offer among all the offers which others are offering. So if you select that offer, the one by your relative, then people won't see you as someone a company official selecting that offer. People will see you as a family member who is trying to give uh, who is trying to give benefit to his own personal gain. So it is better to avoid this conflict by talking to the senior, writing a letter to the senior and saying him like, or her, like, it won't be a good thing or a suitable thing for me to get into this matter, because questions may be raised on me or the whole selection process of selecting the whole criteria. So if possible, I would like you to look into the matter by yourself, or you may hire someone else from the same team. Then here you have cleared your point that I am trying my best to stay away from this, because this again, this family member thing. But here you have showed your concern about the potential problem, potential conflict which you may face in future. Then the next step would be on the reply which you are going to have from your senior. Your senior may appoint someone else which is which is good, or may hire or may say yourself like, we admire your integrity, we have trust on you, and we would hope you would look into the matter as a company official, rather than a family member. Then that's the way you can now fully approach to the whole thing. And now, even in this thing now, selecting while selecting the whole thing, you have to be objective in your criteria, and you have to be like factual on whole selection process. So this is one of the example which I where I tried to explain like how you can do these things. Another thing I would say is like keeping a like hierarchy of interest within yourself. Like there may be a conflict of interest on within you or within the organization at different stages of time. So having a hierarchy of interest, like which one is more better, like the performance of company, or the honesty part, or like the being punctual in the company. So there are different interests and different ideals within you. So having a hierarchy within yourself, a predefined hierarchy, will help you to get into the conflict in a better way whenever it approaches you. Because as I said, no matter what you try, no matter how good intentions you are having, you are surely gonna get into the conflict. So better to work on yourself and have a bombardment session within your mind only. So I guess I cleared the point.
Thank you for the ideas and suggestion about creating fake scenarios about conflict, and try to imagine a situation like it is highly possible for us to handle when that happens. Maybe it won't be the same, but we will have a chance to handle it if we think about it this way. So right now, I want to turn back to Saba once more. We know that you, Saba, worked with lots of people in the projects and improved yourself as much as you can in the situation when you were inside. So, are there any resources you would like to recommend for learning more about conflict management for personal development? Any books, courses, or something else you want to share with us?
Yeah, well, we can mm, learn through a different type of courses. Like we can take course from Udemy or Coursera. And as far as books are concerned, I think it depends on the conflict, interpersonal, societal, or international. I could go on that there is no one book that can cover the whole subject. There is no book as such. We have to read a lot of books. We have to learn different type of podcasts, different type of documentaries, and we can study different type of conflicts to gain more insights about the conflicts and how can we manage and resolve them. But I would suggest you people that must read the book mm, War and Peace by Count Leo. Of course, if you are interested in personal conflict resolution, it might be as well to draw your attention to the three ships of romance. They are friendship, courtship, and battleship. Once the battleship stage has been reached, it may be necessary to engage a lawyer to resolve the conflict. So if you want to get much more understanding about conflict resolution, you must read this book War and Peace, and you will learn a lot from this book. And you can take different type of courses, and you can join different type of relevant podcasts. So yeah, you can learn from these resources.
Thank you, Saba, for sharing those resources with us. I'm sure they're helpful and our listeners will take note of it. And now I want to ask Sid, like, what are some technology that has changed the landscape of conflict management?
So we just talked about talked now, not now actually, a while back, how over reliance on technology can be a potential problem in this conflict management. But obviously, it got many positive sides as well. So first of all, among all of them would be the thing which we are doing right now, which is training and development part. And Our podcast, it is one of them. You can take an example of it. So, online courses and webinars on conflict management are widely available, as Sabha mentioned, on Udemy and Coursera. LinkedIn Learning is another platform which is like a great one, where you would find professionals, and they would help you in getting a right shape. So another thing is, through technology you can reduce the communication gap between different departments by establishing a dedicated communication channel in companies. Obviously, as a leader, it's your duty to have it. Also, not to forget, via technology, the conflict can be approached in early stages when it's on the foundation scale. So, even if you both are from different branches or different departments of the same company, like R&D and marketing or networking, or maybe HR, or hiring department. So you can reach the conflict at an early stage, so it would be better. Like an official video conference meeting can definitely help in this. Not to forget, it's always best to have like a physical touch, but there are in many cases like that's not possible, so definitely technology can help in that matter. The last one I would say is mediation and dispute resolution tools. So there are some online resolution platforms. So some professionals of different domains are present here. And if you like, if your company, if you are having a conflict in your company itself, and it's like you can't handle it on yourself, which is like best, because you both know yourself in a better way, but you now need some kind of mediation or professional mediator in all this. So you can use these platforms. So platforms like Modria and eWay's resolution center facilitate the resolution of disputes online through mediation and arbitration services. So although over reliance on technology is bad for conflicts, but definitely having nothing in hand is always better than having something in hand, because uh, ha- the lack of mediation, the lack of proper communication channel, and the lack of a touch. Although it may be not physical, but at least having a personal touch, which through video conferencing and calls, it can help you a lot. One more point I should mention is, like, a lot of time in suggestions, uh, people of the company are not very comfortable in, like, uh, all this pointing out the negative things within the company. So anonymous communication channel where you can put the suggestions, where your ID would be get like anonymous, and no one would be able to access that. It can help the members of the company to, like, uh, to tell the problem in early stages, like the manager is like doing this, and manager is not focusing on this part of company. So I would say this is one of the advantages of technology. And overall, technology is helping in this conflict management thing, if you access it in a proper level, instead of, like, getting too much of it.
Thank you, Sid. And after the question about technology, I want to add one more about emerging challenges for our future. So, what do you think, like emerging challenges, like do you anticipate in the future of conflict management? Like, where do you see it is heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
So we discussed about the fact how companies are having multiple departments under the same umbrella. This is a great in a way, but also the thing is the interdependence of these departments. Thus, one of the major challenges is in future of conflict would be the involvement of multiple parties in the conflict in a single, because these all departments are interdependent. So even if like some conflict happens between between two departments, other departments are going to get engaged in this conflict, and it can like mess up the whole process, and it won't go in a proper line. So the other problem which I see is lack of resources, which is related to the same point, because you are having multiple departments within the organization. So definitely you have limited funding and you need to allocate the budget properly in a different way, and not all parties are going to get satisfied with that particular budget. Uh, People not getting ready to negotiate on their part, because obviously as the manager you will think the to have like best for your own interest, I mean for the department, because that increases your rating in the annual rating, and it increases your bonuses and increments. The other set of challenges will be, I mentioned the importance of technology, but the other set would be is from the same thing, technology itself. So technological advancements help the companies to work now a lot of in like corona period as well. But now the companies are following a model where they have like 3 to 4 days of working, and the other days they keep as work from home. So this is like the problem related to virtual collaboration, and the I mentioned once the misinterpretation of words and lack of empathy within the colleagues, because we all know when you are physically involved in the job, we can't neglect the fact that a better brotherhood comes in that case. So since the things are getting a lot virtual, the thing which we need to highlight is the increase of polarization. Nowadays people are unable to differentiate their self from their responsibilities. So for like keeping their like Sabha gave one example of politics and religion part. So she mentioned how like they were having problem with the religion thing and political thing, because they were unable to keep themselves separate from their religion part. But it was only able to get solved when they focused on the greater output. And I see social media is like gaslighting the whole process, because it got algorithms which show you the similar content, and for the left one, for either you are like from left or right wing, you are gonna have some polarization, and you will then include yourself, your culture in your company, and it would be like a conflict within your culture itself, because you won't be able to tolerate the cultural differences in the work culture if you get too much polarized. So, and I guess it's more of a company related I mean career related podcast. So so I don't think I should discuss about the geopolitical, but we all know like how things are getting more messed up in the geopolitical arena.
Thank you, Sid. I think those are like some really like, practical points, especially the fact that you mentioned the geopolitical arena and the COVID period, how we dealt with it and how evolving. So I think we can have an optimistic view if we foster the skills that conflict management teaches us. Now, I want to head over to Saba now and ask you, what about, we talked about how to handle conflicts externally, but how do you handle conflicts when you are personally involved?
Um, I can recall 2 years ago I was too much aggressive when I come towards the conflict or when there is a conflict between me and someone else. So I learned a lot and I improved myself. And right now, I prioritize maintaining a clear mind so that I can think clearly and respond rationally. And while during the conflict, I try to listen actively and attentively to the other person's perspective without interrupting them, and try to ensure that I understand what are their concerns fully. And I try myself to articulate my thoughts and my feelings calmly and in a respectful way, and just focus on the issue at a hand. And I don't think that we can resolve the conflict while bringing the past grievances or past issues. Before um, coming to the university, I was like, when a conflict arise, I just start dragging all the past issues. For example, me and my sisters are in fight, and we are fighting, and I just remind her that you did this to me that day, you did this, you did this. I just forget about the present moment. I just try to drag all the past issues here and start this. And right now I try my best that I focus on the issue at hand and at the present moment, and I try to emphasize with the other person's point of view and acknowledge their feelings, and I look for areas of agreements and shared interest to build upon and work towards a resolution. And I improve the thing that right now I try to take the responsibility. If I have contributed to the conflict, I take ownership of my actions and I apologize if necessary. And I try to suggest everyone to take the responsibility and learn the thing to apologize if you are wrong. And I suggest that constructive ways to address the conflict, offering compromises and alternative approaches. And we can seek mediation if needed, and if resolution seems challenging. Me myself, I'm open to involving a neutral third party to facilitate productive dialogue, because sometimes it's not easy for two people to resolve their conflict. It's not about just two peoples. It can be two groups. It can be two states which are involved in the conflict. Maybe they cannot resolve it by themselves. So um, involving the third neutral party can help. And I also try this approach as well. For example, if me and my sister is fighting, we try to approach our brother because he seems neutral, and he don't take a side of one. So that so yes, it's helpful to seek mediation. And I think these strategies help me navigate and conflict effectively and promote understanding and foster positive outcomes in personal interactions as well.
Thank you. And I think we all can relate to that part about fighting with our siblings and then making up for it. So thank you for like sharing that interesting and very real life experience on how to solve that conflict. Thank you, Saba. And now we've heard from either of the guests, but let's ask both of our guests a question as we are nearing to the end. What advice would you give to someone starting out in the field of conflict management? Suppose they're new, they want to learn. What is the one key takeaway point, if you can say it in short?
Can I answer?
Yeah, you can go first and then Sid can go.
Okay. Um, I cannot say just one key thing that you can practice, but yes, you can start from the fun thing. And I think the most important thing is to start, to start something. And when you just start to uh, to learn and to develop such type of skills, then you will lead towards the advancement and towards expertise of that skill. So I advise that keep exploring different conflicts and resolution techniques and communication skills and theories of conflict management, because I think that it's not conflict management and conflict resolution is not a simple thing. Yes, you can start from your personal life, you can practice it from your home and among your relationships, with your sisters, with your brothers, with your friends, with your peers, parents, in your surrounding, but you can keep exploring different type of conflicts. And just always remember one thing, that try to understand and appreciate the diverse perspective to facilitate the understanding and constructive dialogue, because I think the main thing that lead towards the conflict is the difference in opinions and different type of perspective. And always try to maintain a calm and patient approach in tense situation, and so that you can be able to think clearly and make the more logical decisions. And you can foster trust and open communication with all parties involved in conflicts, and don't try to um, stop yourself from learning just because of some negative experiences. Yes, you will suffer a lot, because we all are humans and suffering is the permanent thing of this world. Yes, you will suffer, you will experience bad things, but it's normal, it's quite normal, because everything go through this. And just try to continuously seek feedback from your mentors and peers and those involved in conflicts, so that you can improve your approach. And I think these key takeaways would be helpful for your um, management approach.
And what about you, Sid? What do you think about that?
So we have talked about like most of the points in this whole session, and Sabha also talked about many things. So first of all, keeping in mind the things we discussed, and in addition to that, which I think is missing, or I should mention or highlight the point is having a sense of brotherhood, or whatever you call, or if you want to call it sisterhood or whatever hood, but a sense of like closeness in the workplace is necessary, because uh, uh, I have seen like this whole thing, whatever skills strategy we have mentioned, like active listening, empathy, problem solving. And one thing which you will also notice, if like a stranger comes to you with a problem, like I have this problem, and I need 1 hour of you, then it's actually difficult for you to like get into it like straight away. But if you are a person who is close to you comes to with that problem, then most probably you will enter it with a better chances, and you will try to listen the points. And there now when you enter a conflict in this case, now it's just not your like company level positions, it's also your personal relations. So definitely you have to keep the both of them separate, but now it would help you to like get into it more better. So one of the advice which, and for this thing, as I said, this thing is like everyone at colleague level should focus. The other thing is different for who is a leader, and who is on the on top of the hierarchy. So one advice which I like quoting, like my mother told me was like a strong person is n- actually avoids portraying his power, or like he does not need it to show his power to the his colleagues, or like his the people who are under him, because he already knows he's strong enough. So when he would be in the conflict, he can deal with it in a better way. but a weak person would most likely will try to portray himself strong enough. So uh, it all are strong enough because he knows like when he would enter in the conflict, he is not gonna sustain the thing. And why I mention this is because when I see the work culture of this whole Castopro, the hierarchy which you all having, but even after that whole hierarchy, barely anyone can identify like Santo is like in top of hierarchy, or like Asma is having like a less in hierarchy, but it's more of like a common sense of like that brotherhood, sisterhood, or whatever hood, motherhood, fatherhood, Bollywood, Hollywood. So I like this thing about hold your company, and this thing will actually keep you going, yourself going. And I saw like how ground to earth are like Santo, Minhaj, and even the admins are. So I appreciate this point, and I guess that's the thing which would keep you all like on the same boat. And I hope and you will go on a like long sail together.
Thank you for sharing this, and thank you for commenting our server like that, Sid. We are very appreciated on this side. And thank you to you, Sid and Saba, for your insightful answers. That makes the end of our questions. I guess this will be one of the longest episodes for our season. And before we wrap up, I would like to thank our guests for coming here today. I'm sure our listeners gained lots of useful information to help them improve their conflict management skills. Yes, you can actually. Let's continue with you, Ashrafi.
All right, Zainab, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the guests for joining us and to the listeners for tuning in and staying to the end. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please reach out to us on social media or to our server. Thank you.
Yes, and we would love to hear from you. So stay tuned for more exciting episodes for this season, and don't forget to subscribe to Castpotro on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking with confidence. Goodbye, everyone.